On Wednesday, we talked about Acaden Lewis as a new recruiting target for the Tar Heels, and now he's got an offer and is shooting up the recruiting rankings. This Carolina coaching staff might just know how to spot talent.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? It's Friday, June 15th, 2024. Welcome into the Locked On Tar Heels podcast, the only daily North Carolina show out there. Game day for the Diamond Heels, kicking off the College World Series, and you're joining us at the place to get your Tar Heels content every single day. Thanks for making us your first listen or watch, and a special shout out to all you everydayers out there and all the members of the Locked On Tar Heels Discord family. Thank you all for being here as always. Coming up on the show today, we're certainly doing that. Going to get you ready for the College World Series and Game 1 in particular. I'll give you my 4 bases, my 4 keys to that game. But before we get to all of that, I want to talk more about not just Acaden Lewis, but this whole 2025 offer sheet that Carolina has out there. On Wednesday's show, if you were with us, we talked about Acaden Lewis. He's a guard in the class of 2025. And Carolina had recently shown interest in him. Coach Davis and some other members of the staff were there watching him at the NBPA Top 100 camp this week. And so on that show, we discussed all that. And it was funny, literally on the day that show dropped, Lewis announced on his Twitter page that he had received an offer from the Tar Heels. And so really, really funny timing there. But also on that same day, Rivals released their updated rankings for the class of 2025. And oh my word, as I predicted or hoped would happen, this dude went flying up the ranking. I mean, insanely flying up the rankings. And oh, by the way, everyone is in on Acaden Lewis now, as they should be, right? We talked about that. Like his offers have just been growing in terms of notoriety of what these schools are. Now, in addition to Carolina, some others I've noticed, Tennessee has offered, Alabama has offered, UConn has offered. And so it's going to be a fight if the Tar Heels want to land this young man from the DMV area. But here's the thing. This conversation today is less specifically a conversation about Acaden Lewis and his ascension, solely about that anyway, because he's a big part of this conversation. And it's more one about the ascension for multiple players that Carolina has targeted and offered in this class. Why so? Well, we'll get to that in a minute. But before we do, let me set the stage for where Carolina's offers are in the class of 2025 right now. There are 15 of them that we know of right now out there. And I'll give you, as I give you these 15 guys, I'm going to give you them in order of where they're ranked at Rivals right now and how far they moved up or down in that most recent ranking. No movement in the top 4 players: AJ DeBansa, Cam Boozer, Darian Peterson, and Caleb Wilson, all of whom Carolina has offered. None of them budged. That's all still your top 4. Beyond them, Cody was number 5. He drops down to 6. I mean, it's like, all right, 1 drop. Isaiah Harwell climbs 2 to number 8. Nate Ament, who is a recent offer, climbs from 14 up to 10. Jasper Johnson falls from 12 to 13. Bryson Tiller took the biggest drop of Carolina's offers. He fell 9 spots down to number 15. Caden Boozer stays pretty similar. He falls 1 spot to 21. That's Cam's twin brother. Malachi Moreno is a big climber in these rankings. The big 7-footer climbs 33 spots up to number 24. Braylon Mullins is the biggest climber of Carolina's offers. He climbs 57 spots in Rivals rankings all the way up to number 31. Nick Hamenia climbs if it wasn't for some of these other guys, it would be a pretty big jump. 9 spots up to number 40. Acaden Lewis, who we're talking about, has climbed 50 spots to number 55. So that means from 105 up to 55. That's bonkers. And then Derek Dixon is the one who, along with Bryson Tiller, who has dropped a little bit down 6 spots to number 70. So as we talk about this Rivals refresh, of the 15 players that Carolina has offered in the class of 2025, 5 of those 15 were more recent offers. 5 of those jumped multiple spots, 3 of which were massive jumps of 30 or more spots. Let me give you those 5. Nate Ament was the lowest of those 5 recent offers. But as I said, he's up to 10th now, climbed 4 spots. Malachi Moreno is the biggest climber, I apologize. The 3rd biggest climber of the group, up to 24th. That's up 33 spots from 57th to 24th. Braylon Mullins is the biggest climber of the group. He was 88th, and now he's all the way up to 31st. That's 57 spots. Nick Kamenia, as I said, is up 9 spots to 40th, and Acaden Lewis is the 2nd biggest riser of this group that Carolina has offered, up 50 spots, again, from 105 to 55. And so on Wednesday's show, we speculated, because at that point, I mean, again, if you look at this group from some of them where they were, sure, Ament's not that far down at 14, but Moreno at 57, Mullins at 88, Lewis at 105. And you're like, why is Carolina offering these tip-top elite guys? And then some of these guys that, were outside the top 50, for example. And, it's like, hey, maybe you wait longer. And we speculated about a bunch of different things. But one of the reasons we looked at was the possibility that the coaching staff had a really good eye for talent at guys who had maybe more recently climbed into the rankings or had hovered, but for example, Acaden Lewis has been in the 80s, 90s since last June, for example. And then they're recognizing the work that's been put in over this past year and how this guys like Lewis and Mullins are just rocketing up the rankings. And so to me, one of the possibilities as to why Carolina is offering those guys is their just ability to recognize talent and be like, look, I know these guys are ranked where they're ranked, but they are dudes we want. And so we're going after them now before they jump and rise all the way up these charts. And there is history of that. Kobe White did some of that and climbed all the way as high as he did. Same with Drake Powell. There are other examples of this where Carolina has done this, landed guys who are absolute dudes. And so, if I'm somebody like a Malachi Moreno, a Braylon Mullins, and a Acaden Lewis, I look at that and say, oh, this Tar Heel coaching staff sees possibility in me. Because even though that was in the Coach Williams era, somebody like a Kobe White, it was under a lot of the same assistants, right? Like Hubert Davis and like Brad Fedrick. And so there is holdover there. And so their ability to see that and go after them is great. And they're now rewarded as 3 of these players jump 30 or more slots. And maybe it's not rewarded because now they're on like everybody's radar, right? And so we'll see how Carolina's pursuit of these guys continues to go. One other thing that our buddy JC Fox, who have a lot of regular conversation with, that's part of the Locked On Tar Heels Discord family. One of the possibilities he offered up that I didn't suggest on the show the other day, but I wanted to share with you all, is he said, Isaac, one of the possibilities could be that all the offers this year could be a direct effect of the talent in 2026, or the level of the talent in 2026. 25 is a loaded class with lots of talent that we've been hearing about since 2023. 26 appears to be more normal year, or a little bit lower, just certainly not the level of skill set that the class of 25 has. And so maybe JC proposes it's worth taking more now and taking less later. Not so much a promise to the players, he says, but I could see Coach Hubert Davis telling players like Moreno, Jimenia, look, I'm not recruiting 4s or 5s in 26. Now I might take a transfer, but you can come now, get all the work and improvement, and we can offer that. You can get all the work and improvement we can offer and be the focus maybe next season. And so I think that's a very legit approach. He also says, JC says, or you could go somewhere else now, be unhappy, and end up transferring anyway. So might as well come here and get that development. And also as part of that, when they're ready to transfer, JC says, and well, we don't know if we'd have a spot for you next year. If you did that, it might be taken. So come now while there's definitely a spot for you. I think that's a great possibility, is like, hey, you want to load up on what you think is a more talent-rich class, get them now, bring them in. So that's a great thought by JC. Thanks for offering that up, my man. But great to see these young men making leaps. Congratulations to Acaden Lewis on receiving his offer and all of these offers from other schools. We want to celebrate for these young men as they get that recognition. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, baseball time. It's game day. The College World Series kicks off in Omaha today, and the Tar Heels are thick in the middle of it. Carolina, Virginia, game one at 2 o'clock Eastern today. We're going to get you ready for that coming up in just a second. Right after I tell you about eBay Motors, passion, drive, and patience, the formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers to roof racks, exhaust kits to LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed or power or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Why? Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. So with all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply, eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. Woo, things get going in Omaha today, College World Series, and you know Carolina is starting this thing off. The number 4 national seed Tar Heels against number 12 national seed Virginia, 2 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. And again, yes, it is the first game of the College World Series. I've pulled the whole bracket up here for those of you watching on YouTube so you can track along and look at the other teams if you want while I'm talking. FanDuel has this game. Carolina favored by a run and a half, and the over-under is set at 12 and a half runs. So expecting these two offensive teams to really do something here. In terms of the pitching matchup, it is a rematch of a pitching matchup from earlier this season. Carolina goes with their number one guy, or who's been the number one guy down the backstretch of the season, Jason DeCaro, freshman right-hander who is 6-1 on the season with a 3.89 ERA. Virginia counters with Evan Blanco, the sophomore lefty, 8-3 on the season with a 3.69 ERA. We expect this to be a really, really good matchup. In the series that the Tar Heels and Cavs played earlier this season, this was the game 2 matchup, actually. Interestingly enough, DeCaro went 6 innings, gave up 6 hits, 5 earned runs, 3 walks, 5 strikeouts, and 91 pitches. Blanco, 6 1/3 innings, 6 hits, 2 runs, 1 base on ball, 7 strikeouts, and 94 pitches. So honestly, these guys were really, really close in what they allowed. The only difference is a 5 spot in the runs column for what DeCaro gave up and just 2 for Blanco. So, again, I expect this to be a really good pitching matchup. Should be a lot of fun, but I expect these offenses to get into these guys as well. And it's going to be about mitigating damage, right? It's not about, you're not going to be able to keep these teams off the base paths. That's just not going to happen. But can you keep them from getting across the plate? That's my question that we're looking for. Let's get to know Virginia a little bit. The Cavs are 46-15 on the season. This is their 7th College World Series appearance, but they're 3rd in the last 4. They were in Omaha last year as well, but lost 2 games and out. So eliminated right away there despite being one of the national seeds. As I said, Carolina and Virginia did play earlier this season. It was in Charlottesville, April 4th through 6th. I think that was a Thursday through Saturday series, not a Friday to Sunday. The Virginia took 2 of 3, won game 1, 14-11. Carolina had a lead, and the Wahoos came back late, as I recall, won game 2, 7-2, and then Carolina took game 3, 12-7. So lots of offense. If I remember the numbers, each team hit 10 home runs in that series. Gonna be a little bit different inside the friendly confines of Charles Schwab because it's a little bit bigger, but we expect that to happen. Let me give you some names to know for Virginia. Griff O'Farrell, their shortstop, leadoff guy, 3 for 8 in the Super Regional last weekend. First team All-ACC player, 92 hits on the season. The guy that he's throwing to get putouts is Henry Ford, a freshman, but was part of the All-ACC freshman team. Really good player there over at first base. 2 players tied for the team lead in batting average for Virginia, Henry Godbout and Bobby Whalen. And so they're both hitting 370 this season. I mean, that's bonkers. And so, but again, though, Virginia is a really, really good hitting team. And we'll talk more about that offense here. And just actually, you know what? Let's go ahead and do that now. Virginia's offense, man, they are really good, folks. Really good offense. They're second nationally in batting average. And it comes from a bunch of different guys. 8 of their 9 typical starters are hitting 332 or better. So DeCaro's got a lot of work on his hands. They are 4th nationally with 9.4 runs per game, 4th nationally in slug at 575, 6th nationally in on-base percentage at 428. So again, as I said, this is not, I mean, if DeCaro can just keep him off the bases, great. But it's more about stopping the big inning. I guess I'd put it that way. That's what DeCaro is going to have to do against this offense. Now, obviously, as we well know, the Tar Heels are not slouches themselves. It's just that aren't quite those same numbers as is Virginia. I want to look at 2 things on the Carolina side of it. Number one, that pitching staff. As we already said, Jason DeCaro will be starting game 1. Scott Forbes confirmed that on Thursday, and our guy Michael Coe put that out with Aiden Howe, the typical game 3 starter available out of the bullpen, he said, and we expect Shea Sprague is set to be this game 2 starter on Sunday, regardless of whether that's Florida State or Tennessee. That will be the opponent. It's just a matter of whether that's in the winner's bracket or the loser's bracket. And as I look at Jason DeCaro, he doesn't have to get outside of himself. He doesn't have to be not him. He's just got to do what he does. Don't be anything wild. Just be consistent. Throw strikes. Control your breathing. Control your emotion. Don't let external things affect you. Don't let this moment be bigger than you. He didn't last weekend. I mean, it was great in game 2 against West Virginia, and now he's got to bring it against regular Virginia. Just do that same thing. I know he is 18 years old and was playing a lot of this season at 17. And in some ways, sometimes that's a good thing because you just don't realize how big the moment is, right? And you just go out and pitch. That's what he's got to do, be that. And you do start to look as you get to Omaha, you've thought about this in the regional, you've thought about it in the super regional. Does missing guys like Jake Knapp and Folger Boaz, how much does that hurt you? What I look at for the Tar Heels is it doesn't necessarily hurt too much in terms of depth because Carolina's got so many strong arms and you've got a couple extra days of rest, as we talked about earlier in the week here at the College World Series. Like Carolina will play Friday, day off guaranteed, win or lose, and then you play on Sunday. And then as long as you don't get swept out and lose both of those games, Carolina will get either Monday off and play again on Tuesday, or if they've gone 2-0, they will get both Monday and Tuesday off and play again Wednesday. So you got time to give your arms and your bullpen some rest, even if you lean heavily on Pence or Matthias or Peterson or whoever it is. You got some time for that. But where the missing of Knapp and Boaz could hurt you is in terms of top flight pitching, right? And so are DeCaro and Sprague able to step up and be those dudes with the bullpen behind them? Hopefully so. The other thing I want to look at in terms of the Carolina side of this is how critical the outfield defense will be in Omaha, where the dimensions of the outfield in spots are bigger than the Bosch or other places. And this is where Carolina's great defender, like Vance Honeycutt, if you're not aware, is an elite top of the nation center fielder. Anthony D'Onofrio in right field would be the starting center fielder for a lot of teams in this nation, but most of them don't have Vance Honeycutt, so he's in right. And then Casey Cook in left does a really good job as well. R.L. Bynum wrote a really interesting article this week, just kind of thinking about these bigger dimensions at Charles Schwab in Omaha and how that might play into Carolina's favor, where teams might not be able to hit it out as much, where you're trying to just hit the ball in the gap a lot, get doubles, maybe triples if you get the right carom, things of that nature. But that could play into Carolina's favor because of how strong their outfield defense is. And I know Carolina's defense is something that's been looked at as a weak spot at times this season for different various reasons, but we expect the outfield defense to be really strong. So like the dimensions at the Bosch, let me go from left to right, 335 down the line, 370 to left center, 400 straight away, 355, and then 340 in the right field corner. At Charles Schwab, 335 down the left field line, exact same. 375 to left center, that's deeper than the Bosch. 408 to straightaway center, that's deeper than the Bosch. And the biggest difference, 375 to right center, and that is the deepest part of the park. And that just so happens to be where you probably got, with all due respect to Casey Cook, your two best defensive outfielders in Vance Honeycutt and D'Onofrio guarding that right center field gap. Like, remember that one that was it the bottom of the 8th inning in the second game against West Virginia where Vance cuts off that would-be gapper? That's in right center. That's what we're talking about. That's where that biggest difference is. And so could be a big win for the Tar Heels, taking advantage of that. Now, I want to give you my 4 keys to the game, which we're calling our 4 bases, plus a look at the rest of the field, what's going on, who's going to be the guy, and why could this not be the Tar Heels' time? Man, I think it absolutely could be. We'll do all that conversation coming up in just a second. I'm going to continue to leave the College World Series bracket up for those of you watching. Again, if you're listening to this, you can go find it on my social media or in our Discord. We'd, again, love to have you in there as always. I want to start off with my 4 keys specifically to this game. Number 1 is Jason DeCaro's control. We've talked about DeCaro just needing to stay within himself, get outs, get contact. He's not necessarily a massive strikeout pitcher. That's not really his game at this point as a freshman. But you don't want to just groove him down the middle, but get strikes, right? He walks right now about 4.5 batters per 9 innings. And so what you're looking for is control to the outset, right? Like, know your scouting report, be able to hit the black, up, down as necessary. So don't groove them to this really, really good offense. That's where you got to be careful. But also don't walk. And that's a tough thing to do as a freshman, is to be able to find that level of control. But that's going to be key, is pitching to out contact, right? You're trying to avoid barrels. That's the big conversation. I'm a big Braves fan. We often talk about that. While the Braves have struggled some offensively this year, what their pitching staff has been phenomenal at is avoiding barrels. I think they have the best barrel avoidance rate in MLB right now. And so it's that kind of thing. Sure, pitch to contact, but not hard hit contact. You're looking to get low exit velo on that. Number 2 in my keys, and this was the exact same that we talked about in the Super Regional, is Vance Honeycutt being a contact hitter. Yes, you don't want him to get off of that power, because that's key, but especially in a bigger park, man. Even if you can take your walks, if you can get it into the gap and run, because this dude can run, right? Just need Vance Honeycutt on the bases, put the ball in play and let good things happen. Struck out just twice in the Super Regional, once per game. And if heck, you can cut that down, you'd love to see it. But want Vance Honeycutt to make all sorts of contact in Omaha. That's what you're looking for. Number 3, bullpen arms are going to be key. They're especially here in this game in particular. Again, Virginia is going to hit the ball. They're going to make contact. They're going to put the ball in play. And so DeCaro, you're hoping you can get maybe 5, maybe 6 out of him if he can really pitch efficiently. But this is a game where I'm expecting to need an inning or 2 out of Dalton Pence, an inning or 2 out of Matty Mathias. Can you get an inning out of Peterson, Aiden Houck out of the bullpen this time around? And so if you could get 5 out of DeCaro and get 1 out of each of those other guys, because again, you got a day off and then you can go. And so I wouldn't be surprised if Scott Forbes has a little bit of a quicker trigger with DeCaro than he might otherwise, and would just ride a hot hand, right? If Pence is rolling, let him keep going. Rely on that. He's one of the best pitchers, Dalton Pence is, in this entire College World Series. So you go with that. And then number 4, this is a similar key to what I had last week in the Super Regional, where West Virginia didn't have a great bullpen. And the key is this: patience at the plate. Work counts. Take your pitch if it's there, but you got to get to the bullpen against Blanco, right? Force him to go deep in counts. get to that pin, because that's a place where Carolina has an advantage. Carolina's depth in the bullpen is better than Virginia's. Now, if it was a full series, that would definitely come into play. But in a one-off game, you might not get that advantage. So it's going to be critical that Carolina can get to that pin. Much better team ERA for the Tar Heels than for the Wahoos. So we'll see what happens there. So that's my 4 keys. DeCaro's control, honeycut contact. The bullpen is key for the Tar Heels, but it's also key for getting into Virginia's bullpen. So watch for those things to happen. But then just a couple other like big picture things. You're always watching in moments like this, who's going to be the dude, right? Like you expect Honeycutt to be that guy and step up in big moments. But just like, we often talk about, like in a Carolina Duke basketball game, who's going to be that random guy that gives you 15 points off the bench? So what's going to happen? Is Alex Maderick going to come through in a big way again? Is Colby Wilkerson going to do something unexpected on either side? Might you get something from one of your freshman position players? Like, right? Could Gavin Gallagher come through again? He was big time in the regional, was the mop of that. Didn't have as good a weekend in the supers. Come on, man. Do work, Gavin Gallagher. Luke Stevenson, your freshman catcher. Can he come through in a big moment? Is one of the outfield guys just going to do something great? What's Parks Harbor going to do, right? And so there's all sorts of interesting storylines. Who's going to step up and be that guy? And then for the Tar Heels in general, why can't it be the Tar Heels time now? The Tar Heels have never won the national championship in baseball, came so close in 06 and 07, particularly in 06, though. Of course, I know that's painful for those guys. Would have loved to get over the hump there against Oregon State in either or both of those years. But again, the mantra of this team that I have had for them, 27 outs, because this lineup could come through at any moment. We've seen that multitudes of times in this offseason. That's in the back of Virginia's mind. Like, this team is not done until they're done. And I hope that stresses them out and that Carolina just continues to play their game. As Chad Flack said, I hope you watched the video on Instagram from the Diamond Heels, but Chad Flack did the narration, the voiceover on it, and said Carolina baseball belongs in Omaha. So it's got to happen at some point. I believe it's going to. Why not right now? Let's do it. But what's crazy about it, as you're looking at the bracket, if you're watching on YouTube, man, this is an absolutely loaded World Series. Keep in mind, number 1 overall has not won since 1999. Let's keep that happening. Let's get the Tar Heels coming out of that bracket and dethrone Tennessee. Would love to see that. Obviously, Tennessee is a phenomenal baseball team, but they're beatable, and Carolina has a lot of really, really, really good parts. But I said so many good teams in Omaha. Let me just give you some history around that. The 1 through 16 national seeding started in the 2018 season. This is the first time in that era that we've had 7 national seeds. That's happened previously, but not in the 16 seeded team era. It's also the first time in the 16 team seeded era that we've had the top 4 national seeds in the College World Series. And obviously you've got the top 4 and 7 out of 8 seeded teams in totality, with Florida being the lone non-seeded team. But obviously Florida is a phenomenal baseball team. And so this is a loaded field. And in fact, since the field expanded to 64 teams in 1999, this is just the 4th time having all 4 of the top 4 national seeds. And so it'll be really interesting to see what happens there. I should say that 2 of the 3 other times that the top 4 national seeds have been in, the number 4 seed has made it to the championship round 2 of those 3 and won it in 1 of them. So let's get more of that energy. Really excited for an electric College World Series. And obviously, similar to the Final Four in college basketball, man, it is a massive honor to make the World Series. Like, that is the thing that you talk about for generations to come. But it's one of those things like, hey, we're here. Let's go win the whole blessed thing, right? All right, so we'll be in touch this weekend. I'll do shows after these game live reaction shows on Friday and Sunday. Friday's reaction show will be a little bit delayed But stay tuned for that. I'll definitely get it out to you. All right. If you're not subscribed to the show on video and audio, make sure you do that. Again, hit that bell notification on YouTube so you get a notification when I go live on Friday and Sunday after the games. If you're not part of the Locked On Tar Heels Discord family, we'd love to have you. The link is in the show notes and it's free to join. Come for the Tar Heels, stay for the community. It's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. We'll talk again later today after this game. Make sure you join us and tune in for that. But until then, peace.